Hello, GIS. Hello, GIS students. So this is a small tutorial about Lab 3, Part 2, where I ask you to georeference historical aerial imagery from Utah and to create your own mapping lines of change within the area that you're looking at. We're going to make polygons from lines. So we'll be able to learn how to start by making lines of the outlines of areas of change, and then we'll make polygons from them. Okay, so I asked you to go to the Utah Aerial Imagery Database, and I provide a link for that. And also on the lab, I provide a link for some instructions on georeferencing provided by Esri. So please look at those instructions as well as this tutorial. So in the Utah Aerial Imagery Database, we can see here, what I recommend that you do is to use this directly. It has changed over the years a bit, but the map search still works. So you click map search, and then you're going to want to pick a pretty specific area so that you only get images of that you're interested in. And so I'm going to choose this area of Rock Canyon. You're going to want some area that has experienced change over the historical time period, so not a really rural area, but you also don't want something that's completely rebuilt over and over again, like downtown Salt Lake, because you might not have anything to reference your new or your old images to in terms of bringing them into the GIS for georeferencing. So I chose this area on the edge of Provo near Rock Canyon because I'm familiar with it and it has experienced some change through time. So that brings up these images, and so I have these options. Some of them have too many shadows for me. Some are maybe more recent than I want. The one that I think I'm most interested in is this nice bright one right here. And so, yeah, it's a pretty high resolution. We can see it's many pixels. It's one of these historical stereo air photos that was flown along the edge of the urban area. You can see where it's coming from. It doesn't have georeferencing, but that's what we're going to give it. So I'm going to go ahead and download that. Okay, so now it's downloading to my files. And I'm going to try to remember what it's called. It's Utah, a bunch of numbers, 1970, and ends in 178. Okay, so I've started this project. I'm going to delete what I did before. Just as practice. So I'll refresh my downloads. It should appear in here. I said, yeah, Utah, a bunch of numbers, 1970, 178. I'm going to copy that and bring it up into my lab. So I'll paste it here. So now we can see what I want to reference. I'll bring it into the project. It's going to add the data. It doesn't appear on the map. It's somewhere in space. We can always right click, say zoom to layer, see where it is, out in the ocean somewhere. Infinitely small point near some weird area. Okay, so a couple of hints as you're doing this. What I would suggest is that you first go make sure you brought up some sort of reference imagery. Okay, so I've got the world imagery inserted here. So I went to map, base map, and I brought in this world imagery data. I've also done a couple of things. So first, let's go to Rock Canyon. So here's Rock Canyon. Here's one of the Provo temples, Rock Canyon Park. So I wanted to make sure that my map is in the correct coordinate system that I want to work in. So I went ahead and changed it from Web Mercator World Geographic Coordinate System to a NAD 83 UTM Zone 12 Utah specific coordinate system that's in units that I can understand well for uncertainties. This is in meters of within that projected coordinate system. And we'll see why that matters when we do the georeferencing. Okay, so I've got it in the correct coordinate system. I've brought in my imagery, but that is not clear where it is. So we're going to do some things like zoom to layer and then use this back button, right? We can go forward and back between those. That's a quick, handy reference for this. So to do georeferencing, click imagery and then click georeferencing. That will show us that we're georeferencing, and it'll bring up a georeferencing tab over here. Then we will again zoom to layer, and then we basically can start georeferencing. And what we do is we add control points. Okay, and so I can zoom in and say, okay, I know this is the Provo Temple. I can find this intersection really easy. So maybe I start by clicking there as my first control point. Oh, clicking for me. Hold on a second. Clicked on it. Something's not quite working. Control point table. Have no control points yet. So I want to make this a little smaller. Okay, so click. Okay, so I had some other maps open and somehow that was interfering. So I've clicked on the imagery that I want to reference. I'm going to go back to map and I'm going to go back to here. And now that intersection is right here. So then I click and it ties it as a little postage stamp there, really in kind of small, right? So I don't like that. So I want to make it a little bigger so I can start to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to go down to this next intersection, which I kind of know where that is. And then I'm going to zoom way out and try to find it. It's down here. And I'm just going to roughly click it right now. We're going to adjust this later. But you can see already that we've kind of just basically scaled the image. And we're using a first order polynomial. Well, we're not even that. We're just like kind of scaling it at this point. So if we add a third one, then we'll scale it in all dimensions. So let's do that. So I can find this intersection. And that's roughly here, right? Okay, so now I have it on the map in first order polynomial georeferencing, and we can see zero residual. It has no estimated, an estimated zero error because it can fit 3 points perfectly no matter what for this linear transformation. Those are all pretty rough coordinates, and so we'll end up deleting all 3 of those once we get some more good ones. So now I'm going to focus in on getting some good points. So I'm going to go to intersections that I can see maybe really well. So like I can see maybe the corner of this intersection really well. So I could go like to the corner of the grass here. And now I'm quite off, but it's somewhere around right here. Now there's a big tree. Okay. And so that's probably a pretty good one. That looks reasonable. Let's go over here and get another one. Too close. So something sharp would be good. Okay, so I'm going to go from this old corner right here to now it's up there. Okay, so now you can see I've got some errors. Not terrible, but they're there. Once we get some more points, I'll go back and remember delete those first three that were really, I just kind of picked the middle of the road. So they can be no better than kind of how well I picked that. Some other things that we have in all these images are some water tanks. So some have moved, some haven't. That water tank, so I could do the center of the water tank. And there's another one up Rock Canyon here. Always starting from the stuff the picture you're moving, bringing it into this base map. Okay, so I don't have anything down here. You want things that are very defined. And aren't likely to have changed. Okay, so I guess I'll go from this old road corner to there it is up there. Okay. So now we can see we've got quite a bit of error on some of these. And remember, I didn't like those first three. So I'm going to go ahead and select those and one at a time delete them, first three, because they were just kind of to help us get started. They weren't placed very, and you can see the image adjusting throughout that. Okay. So now you can see I've kind of got a lot of points along this axis. So I need points up here and I need points down here to make this a good transformation. Got a point up there. Let's go down here. See if we can do something in this area. Okay, and I need something over here maybe. Closer to BYU. So I can see these neighborhoods were there back in 1970, no problem. Where else don't I have much? There's a church still there. I can see the edge of that very nicely. Okay, so now we can see some error in these. We've got 12 minus 4, we got 8 control points. We're currently using a first order polynomial. We have enough that we can now use a second order polynomial. And so if we do that, we should see the error residuals, which is currently averaging 35.6, go down. So I'm going to click that. Now it's down to 7-meter residual. But we don't have a lot of points relative to the minimum, and we can see that means that wherever we don't have points, the image is getting quite stretched by this kind of second order polynomial fit to the data. And so yeah, there are some areas where if you get to the outside, things are going to look pretty off, basically. Look how skewed that building is. So we could improve that by maybe clicking on the center of this weird building and click on the center again. So then we have some data in this area. Now it's looking a little bit better. If you wanted this area to be fit even better, then you'd start focusing in on it, right? And remember, I'll start from old and go to the new. We want it to shift in the correct direction. Okay, so that's getting good. Our total RMS is 10.9. This one and this one seem semi-problematic. Let's go to it. So I think if you double click it, it'll pull you to that one. You can see whether or not you picked it well. It's picked okay, but if you don't like it, you can always delete it. And then maybe everything goes down a bit. Doesn't necessarily mean it got better, but it might have. Let's see if we can pick something else instead. I think there's a lot of shift here, so we need some control here. See, we still have a lot of, so we have a lot of distortion on this part of the image near the edge of like the focus center of the image. And I think that's why. So let's get some points near the temple where we used to have points. Yeah, we're doing actually, it looks not terrible. Get like the edge of this sidewalk pretty well. A little bit. Okay, so yeah, inside of all of this data of control points, things are looking pretty okay. Yeah, so you keep going on this until you're satisfied. It is something where you can get an even higher order transformation, third order if 10 or more points. Then you're going to get really wacky stretching wherever you don't have points. So I don't necessarily recommend that for this if we're just trying to see rough changes. So yeah, maybe just one more point here. Oh, that was pretty good already. And yeah, so I think in the area that I'm mapping, I've got quite a few points. You can see my overall residual of, on an average, 10 meters of error. So, don't estimate too high in terms of your mapping accuracy, you could calculate out how much issue that creates at what mapping scales. But for now, that's probably good. So the next thing we need to do is try to capture what you did. So you could use a snipping tool or write down this information. So I might snip and say I georeferenced this. This was a second order polynomial. I had 13 control points. My RMS was 10.6. And you could also capture, maybe what your points looked like. So you could get that whole thing. If you wanted to, you could also capture the individual points. And you can even export your control points to save where they were and see where they were on the map after the fact. Now, once you're done, you can either just press save, which will georeference that file. So if I do that, it's now georeferenced. If you save, you can also save as a new file. So we could, oops. It's in that project. I could call it something maybe more obvious. I could say Rock Canyon 1970 geo .tiff, 8-bit unsigned, so 0 to 255 are the digital numbers. Export that. Now it should add it to the map. And then if we close georeferencing, turn our old one off, you'll see our georeferenced image has been stuck over the top of our base map. Okay, so that works. The next thing you need to do is to map on this image to show me areas of change. In the lab, I pull that up. Basically, what I ask you to do in part 2 is this. So first, georeference things like we've been doing so far. You can also use this link to help you. Then decide what you're going to map in terms of landscape change over the time frames you're looking at. And so to do this, we're going to create an empty shapefile, or if we're working in a geodatabase, which you probably are or should be, a feature class. So mapping lines feature class. And you're going to add it to your project. Then we're going to edit and make new lines of the edges of those polygons. And we're going to make sure all those lines intersect, because if they do, then we can use a tool called feature, which include lines or polygons, and feature to polygons. So we'll take a set of features, wherever they intersect, we'll make cookie cutter polygons out of them. That means that we only have to draw the lines once, and that's why we do it this way. We first make the lines, then make the polygons. If we start by making polygons, then we have to draw the edges of the polygons twice. Feature classes are infinitely small points and lines, which means that if you don't snap the points exactly, you end up having slivers of overlap or underlap where the data doesn't fit nicely together. So always go lines and then use a tool feature to polygon to make your mapping classes. Okay, so to do that, we can go to our catalog pane, we can right click and create a new feature class. We want to make it lines, and we can call it mapping lines. So if you want to be more specific, Lab 3, Rock Canyon, and we're going to add it to the map. So finish. So here are my mapping lines. They're nowhere. Let's first right away make it something big and bold we can see. Okay, now we can't see it because there's nothing there, but that's what we will do. So then we go to edit and we create, and we click on mapping lines, and then we can start drawing. And so I'm going to focus my mapping in this area here near Rock Canyon where I can see the temple exists and it existed in the past, but some areas were like farms and have turned to neighborhoods. Oops. And then other areas maybe were like, is a retention basin today, sort of was a different retention basin in the past. So I think I have enough things to map like kind of a diversity of stuff. In the lab, it says you need to map at least 3 types of landscape classes and change classes. So either no change, changed in this way, or changed in that way. And I say you have to make at least 6 polygons. Now, you can make 2 of each of the 3, or you could make 6 different ones. I'm not really too particularly cared about that, but I do care that you make lines, make polygons from those lines, and then you will learn how to edit the attribute table of the polygons so that you can classify them, color them by their properties. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to draw is this temple and basically show that it hasn't changed. So I'm just going to do this really roughly. So click, 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 click. You can go across the road here and click as well. I'm going to say the road really hasn't changed. So basically, everything around the temple, I'm going to close the polygon. And it has finished. I should turn it back on. So there it is. And do you see it? I've got snapping tools on, right? So if I click here, snapping is on. That's a good thing, because then it means every time I bring it within some pixel tolerance, it snaps to the line. And that's what we want, because we want it to make a solid, what we call feature class. Okay, so there's one mapping area. Turn this on so we can see this next neighborhood of here has changed quite a bit. So I'm going to bound that. I like boxes. Okay, so some of that was ag and has turned to homes. Others were already homes and are homes again. So we could kind of show that. So these ones were there. But if we turn this off, we'll see actually, oh, this one is now not there. So that house got taken out for whatever reason. Maybe there was a fire or something. So I'll separate that out because that's one that was a house and now is undeveloped. So that's kind of interesting and different. I've got a couple over here. Few actually, huh? I'll just do these ones. Snap, snap, snap. Oh, I didn't snap here, so we want to connect that. Yeah. Okay, so we can see mapped things there. I'm not going to worry about this. Lump all that together. The other things I'm going to map is this flood control structure that looks a little different today. So I'm going to try to map the flood control as it was in the past here. Kind of look like this. Seems like it's going along the edge of wherever I think it was kind of part of the flood control, but I'll just stop up here at the mouth of the canyon, come over to Rock Canyon Road. I'm including these water tanks, not sure why, but that's what I decided to do. Okay, so there's our old flood control. So we turn this off. Now today, the new flood control looks a little different. So maybe I would say, it also includes this, but now it doesn't include that. Over there, it's a house. That's different. And then it doesn't include these houses, right? Yeah, so like that. And then these houses are here, haven't done anything with them. So let's make it nice and neat. Okay, so then, yeah, I've got I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got plenty of polygons for what I asked for in this lab. So I made those mapping lines. Let's go ahead and click save. You always want to save your edits. That's saving the data that you produced. It's not the same thing as when I click save up here, which is save your project, which is what I'm displaying in terms of GIS data sets. I had to go ahead and save my line. So if it's grayed out, you've done your saving. Okay, so I'm done creating features. You can click on your attribute table, you can see how many lines you made, and that's what you did. Okay, so now go to one thing to do is next we're going to go to analysis and we click tools, and the tool that we're going to use is called, it's under the toolboxes, data management tools, features, feature to polygon. So whenever you're using tools in ArcGIS, you can just search them. So you could say feature, and then it'll bring up things like, okay, feature to point. And the one I want is feature to polygon. So I click on it, boom, that's what I'm going to use. But you can always, if you know, you can go through the toolboxes as well. And if I click feature to, and I go find feature to polygon, I can kind of locate and things like that too. So if you want to know, it kind of tells you also it's in data management tools. So it's a good idea to kind of pay attention to that stuff when you're like searching for a feature to Polygon tool or some other tool. What folder is it in? Because there's probably similar tools that you might use in there, and you should explore to see what's available. Okay, so I'm going to input my mapping lines, and we're going to see that what I create is not going to work. So I'm going to put it in the same geodatabase. We're going to call it change polygons. Okay, and I click run, and it's going to give me an error. It didn't make anything. And I can show you why. So do you see this big blue line here? That means that just that line segment, I had left it selected. It was the last one I created. So I need to go back to and then clear the selection. Because whenever you run a process on a feature, if part of that feature class is selected, it's only going to operate on the ones that are selected. So let me do change polygons 3.2, and now it's not selected. Let's run it again and see what happens. Boom, it worked. Okay, so be careful about selection when you're running tools. Okay, so let's delete number 1 because that one didn't have anything. Okay, so you can see it worked. It created all the polygons that I wanted to. That's wonderful. So the thing that we're going to do now is we're going to go to the attribute table. It's a little smaller. And so we can see all the polygons now, pretty much. And then we're going to add a field. So click add here. Brings up this fields tool. And we're going to call this, we're going to call it change type. And we're going to call it text, so I can write things in. And we're going to click save the field. Once that's done, you could close your field tab. And then if I type in here, it will accept it. Interesting. You don't have to click modify to get that to happen. But which one was that? Okay, so I don't want to type that in there. So instead, I want this to say it's temple underscore same. So it was the temple before. And then number 2, it's house same. Here is, let's see, turn that off for a second. It was ag houses. So now it's houses. And then before it was ag. Okay, number 4. That little bit there. So this is house before it was flood. Okay, flood control. This was house and house before, so it's house same again. And this is undeveloped, was house before. This one is house same. So if you don't type these exactly the same each time, then they're going to create unique fields that when you go to symbolize things. So careful about typos. It's another good reason to use like domains that are restricted to just specific mapping classes, so you don't get that problem. But I'm not doing that right now. What is that? That's undeveloped before. Now it's flood control. Okay, so I'm going to call it flood and then undeveloped before. And then this is house undeveloped previously. I got plenty of different mapping classes. And then this was flood, same. Then this one, this little one up on the top is it's house, but previously it was flood control. Okay. So I have made changes. I need to click Save Edits. Okay. So then just go ahead over here and let's go ahead and go to symbology and change from single symbol to unique values. I'm going to change, I change type. Okay. And you could kind of get specific on these. So you're like, okay, I want to say, okay, this is flood, same. So this is always flood. Okay, so let's call it blue. That makes sense, right? It was undeveloped and it became flood, so maybe a lighter blue would work. Maybe, how about this water one? Okay. And then house was ag. So let's call it, I don't know, we could do these mangroves, right? Interesting, okay. Interesting, yeah, probably this other one was house ag too, but I didn't call it that. So which one was that? It was like the biggest one, right? It's this one. So if you don't like that, you want that to also be house ag. Change it. Save. Now we have yes. Save them. And let's stop. Let's clear the selection. So now we can see those are the same mapping class. House was flood before. That's kind of interesting. So let's make some interesting symbol there. Computer's getting slow. I'll do this gradient here. Those ones are houses. They used to be flood controlled. Okay, what else have I not done? House undeveloped. Let's use this gray. Temple. Let's do something different for that. Computer's slow. Do this stipple, I guess. And then, undeveloped was a house before. House same. I like house same should be different, I feel like. So let's use this building footprint for house same. And then, yeah, this other one is probably okay. House now became undeveloped. Okay, so there's my mapping area and my map. Okay, so then, of course, you're going to want to insert a new layout. Oops, new layout, probably landscape. You're going to want to do two layouts. So first you can insert your map frame. Use your rulers to set it up nicely. And then scale it how you want it to be. Activate it. And okay, that's my Rock Canyon mapping area. Deactivate it. And then you could go back to map. You can copy all the stuff you have in here. And you can make a new map. You can paste those things in. And in this case, then we can go add your map 2 mapping frame. Okay, and then you're supposed to go and turn, we'll probably have to activate this again, but it's just a turn on your georeferenced imagery for one of them. I think the first one. Okay. And then we want to like kind of get them to be showing the same area, so you can map. You can kind of link them to each other, or you could say probably zoom to layer in both cases. And then that does a pretty good job. The other thing you want to do then probably is appearance, and click on, yeah, with a change polygons, make it semi-transparent, like 50%. Not maybe too much because it's hard to see what we mapped. 20%. So you can sort of see what's going on beneath it. It doesn't work as well for the stippled things. Solid colors work better for this. So consider that. You can do the same here. And then, add in all the requisite things, insert north arrow, units, etc. You can share them since they're the same. Tell me what the underlying imagery is, etc. And describe your process as described in the lab. And yeah, you should save your project and then export your view. So yeah. So yeah, export your data as a nice map. Okay. So hopefully this helps you get it done with Lab 3 Part 2.